Hello, 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 hello. Today we're going to be talking about the Fool Tarot card. And I'm also going to be doing some 3-card readings to show you all the different ways that you can interpret how it interacts with other cards. And I'm going to be time-stamping them with cute little phrases down in the description, so you can also use it as a pick card reading video. Alright, so go through here and I have a few different decks so that you can see the differences between all the cards. For example, this is the Initiatory Tarot of the Golden Dawn. Sorry that my shoulder just broke in half there on the video. And we're going to go through the symbolism on this card. And then I'm going to show you some other decks, and we'll talk about it. So here on this deck, you see this child representative of the Fool. And they are reaching for this flower up here at the top. And there's this wolf kind of circling the child. Now, the child is totally oblivious to the fact that this wolf is lying in wait to gobble him up. He's really just focused on that flower up there, right? And those are roses. He does have the dog on a leash, but the wolf, kind of like, if you know about predator body stance, you can tell that the wolf is really like in control of that situation, right? So let's look at another favorite of mine, the Cosmic Tarot. So the Fool card, one of the hallmarks of the Fool card is this kind of oblivious energy. It's a naive energy, but also an innocent energy. There's two sides to that. There's two sides to most energies. You could see them as positive or as negative. And that is one of the keys to reading the tarot, is understanding that, here we go, understanding that these energies have two sides, and that they can either be used to your benefit or to your detriment. So one of the things that I notice on a lot of Fool cards, and one thing that is typical to the Rider-Waite Smith symbolism, is this little dog here, the dog companion. This little white dog is has to do with loyalty, symbol-wise. But the dog is also the warning against going off of this cliff. And in this card, you can see that he's clearly dressed as a jester. The implication being that he's, silly, that he is perhaps mentally ill. But to me, one thing about this imagery of having him dressed as the jester, we have a totally different idea of that now. The jester was a hired comedian. And as you know from watching a lot of comedians, a lot of them have a lot of smart commentary. So I don't think that jester symbolism is totally appropriate to the Fool. Although I know that at the time, that was kind of what they were called. They were called the Fool. But it's an act, and that's an important distinction to make between the true energy of the card and what someone's hired profession was. Because if you look at the contrast between these two, so you see the dog companion here, it's very ominous, very sinister. The dog companion here is very loyal, very faithful, and watching out for his master. Likewise, the main figure on the card, we've got here just a small child, totally defenseless, totally unaware of the ways of the world. Whereas jesters were actually quite worldly, quite knowing. They knew all of the king's business, certainly. So I do like this deck, but that's something that you're going to want to keep in mind when you are reading this card, is that the energy is not of a hired jester. The energy is of someone who is totally unaware. Which can be good, and it can be bad. Now, I think I mentioned a few times that I had just picked up this deck. And I'm very glad that I did. But let's look at this deck as well. So this symbolism is very typical of the Waite-Smith deck. This is basically what I will be presenting instead of the Waite-Smith deck. And you can see here, now on his tunic he has all these suns. The sun is shining down overhead, and the little dog is warning him. He's not looking at all. He's not looking. He's about to walk off of this cliff, totally unaware. But sun symbolism in cartomancy is very much about success. It's very much about things being good. So positive situations and positive energy. Now, similar to how on this card this child is reaching for this rose, here on this card he's holding a white rose. So we've got the white rose and the white dog. which are about pure energy, purity, and also a reference to the divine white light, because also keep in mind that the Fool card is as you are heading back down the tree. This is the path Aleph. So it is going from Keter to Chokmah, and is representative of that divine white light energy gradually descending here to the physical plane in Malkut. All right. And then I have one more deck that I'm going to show you. And this is very similar to the Rider-Waite-Smith deck. And as you can see, we've got the Fool card right there on the front. But what makes this deck really neat aside from it being holographic, is that all of these scenes are shown from behind. So you get a slightly different perspective on the field of vision. So in the case of the Fool here, you see the volcano starting to explode off in the distance. You've got his little canine companion down here. You can see the rose clearly still in his hand. All his worldly possessions right here in this pack. And from this angle, it really doesn't look like he's about to walk off a cliff, right? He's just headed for that volcano, which is also quite dangerous, but a slightly different vibe. Let's do some card readings using the Fool. I'm going to draw 2 extra cards. Okay, so we've got the Fool card, and then we have the 9 of Wands upright, and we have the 5 of Cups in the reverse. So the way that I would read these 3 cards together is that it's possible you've been naively defending a position. That would be the 9 of Wands here. And that it's going to lead you to nothing but disappointment. Now, reading reversals it's really open to interpretation, okay? So one way that you could read this is that it's leading you to disappointment. But another way you could read it is that you've had disappointment in the past. And despite this past disappointment, you still naively defend a certain position, or that because of your past disappointment, you fiercely defend your inner child. Or you could even read it as doubling down on something because of disappointment, and then leaving it behind and forgetting all about it. So leaving it behind in a different sense than you would get with the Six of Swords or the Eight of Chalices, which has a lot of baggage attached to it. With the Fool, if you're leaving something behind, you're just letting go. You're just strictly letting go. In this case, we're going to pretend that the Fool has come out in the reverse. And now I'm going to draw a couple of cards. So, the cards I have are the Queen of Chalices and the Seven of Pentacles in the reverse. And any of you who watch my tarot videos regularly know that I call the Seven of Pentacles the quit your job card. That you've worked very hard at something and that the payoff has not been sufficient. And if you are coupling that with the Fool card in the reverse, it could be that you went into that situation very naively, and because of that, your labor was taken advantage of. And we have also, with that, the Queen of Chalices. So this could be you in the situation. Now, having more dominion over your emotional states. But it can also, or being more intuitive in those situations. The Queen of Chalices could also be someone in this situation who is helping you out. This could be a mother. This could be a water sign. It could be somebody in your life who is reminding you to take care of yourself, or somebody who is caring for you. Now we're going to look at the Cosmic Tarot. And I'm going to read for the Fool upright, and then also the Prince of Cups and the Four of Cups reversed. Now, Four of Cups reversed can be about options. And upright, it can be about those options being open. But then in the reverse, it could be that you have made a decision. Four of Cups, there's also an implication that the options that are open to you are not necessarily what you truly desire. So it could be that there were options open to you, but none of them were really what you wanted, but you made a decision anyway. And paired with the Fool, that could have been a hasty decision, or it could have been not well thought through. The Prince of Cups here also You could have made this decision based on a gut feeling that you were having. And the Prince of Cups could also be a Scorpio in your life. So it could be a situation where maybe a water sign person who is very passionately driven by their emotions asked you on a date, and you, out of a gut reaction, said yes, but maybe you weren't super into them. So that could be how I would interpret those cards. So now I'm going to read from this Cosmic Tarot deck as though the Fool has come out in the reverse. And so the cards I'm going to be pairing it with are the Two of Cups upright and the Emperor in the reverse. Emperor in the reverse can be somebody who is has fascist tendencies. It can be somebody who is overbearing, overbearingly authoritative. And paired with the Fool, it could be saying this person is not naive at all. Especially if this is someone that is presenting themselves as like playing dumb, or is presenting themselves as like asking a lot of questions. It could be that they are playing possum in some way, and that actually they know exactly what they're doing and being very authoritative and are not naive at all. And because the Two of Cups is coming out here, that could be occurring within a love relationship. All right, and now we'll be looking at the Golden Art Nouveau Tarot Fool, which is very much like the Waite Smith deck. And I'll be reading the Fool upright, and then the cards that I'll be pairing with it. We have the Nine of Pentacles in the upright, and we have the Six of Swords in the reverse. So what this could mean is that you left a place totally just on a gut feeling and have moved somewhere else, and that this part of the action has taken place in the past. And now you have reaped the benefits of that change and are now in the position of this Nine of Pentacles here. So now I'm going to read from this deck as though the Fool were in the reverse. Let's see what we have here. We have the Eight of Cups and the Two of Swords, both of which are upright. This especially, remember what I said in one of the previous segments about the Fool and the Eight of Cups being able to be read similarly, but the intention and the process behind them being totally different. So you're able to see that this journey, wherever you're heading off from, you're leaving a lot behind. You know exactly what you're leaving behind. Whereas with the Fool, when it's upright, that implies that you're kind of just striking out to do anything different. So these two cards being paired together, this Fool in the reverse is reinforcing that you are fully aware what you're leaving behind. And then further reinforcing that, we see the Two of Swords here, which is you making that clear decision between two things. Now, the figure holding the swords here is blindfolded, but that isn't to imply that she's not fully aware of the situation. It has more to do with, I'm not the hugest Star Wars fan, okay, but in the first Star Wars movie, the very first one that came out in the 1970s, where Luke Skywalker is learning how to use the lightsaber and has the helmet on and the shield blacked out. It's that kind of intuition of using your mind's eye to see everything fully, which would be a further implication of this Fool card being in the reverse. And then finally, we will look at this new Tarot of the New Vision. I really like this deck a lot. I did buy it on wish.com. So we've got the Tarot Fool upright. And I will read a couple cards with it. So we have the Tower, and we also have the Ten of Pentacles. You could read it like this. The Fool ends up falling off the cliff, but it leads to this beneficial outcome. So you can see that the Tower is not always necessarily a bad card either. It can be very destructive. This could even have been some kind of insurance payout too that leads to financial security. It's also a reminder that financial security is not the be-all and end-all of every situation, especially if it comes from a place of bodily harm. Something to keep in mind when you're doing your magical workings for money is to always have the intention that no one gets hurt, because money will come to you through the path of least resistance. And it's possible that that path of least resistance is an insurance payout of some kind. So now we're going to pretend that the Fool is pulled in the reverse. The Fool is in the reverse, but I'm pretending that I pulled it out of the deck this way. And pull a couple of cards. So we have the Ace of Swords here, and the Six of Pentacles. The Ace of Swords and the Fool in the reverse are very good to see with one another, because the Ace of Swords is about a change that you are affecting from within yourself. Cutting things out, or just making some kind of very drastic change in your surroundings. So when you see the Fool in the reverse here with this Ace of Swords, that communicates that you know full and well what you're doing, and that you have considered a lot of different options and are not just going into this blindly. With the Six of Pentacles coming in as well, it could be that you are donating money to a specific cause because you are going to affect this change. And that by whether you are donating money to a lab so that they can work on new medicine, or maybe some other philanthropic endeavor that's going to lead you to a direct and specific goal. I hope you enjoyed this video today, and I hope that you found it helpful. Really, the best way to learn more about reading the tarot is just to practice. Pull spreads for yourself, see how the cards interconnect, and most of all, trust your intuition. Don't just go by rote of what the cards mean, because anyone can memorize or look up the meanings, but it's about how the symbolism speaks to you specifically, because you might find too that as you use a particular deck, that it speaks to you in a way that is slightly different than what's written in the book, based on your own experiences and the context that you have for different symbols in your life. If you did enjoy this video, I hope you will like, share, subscribe, tell your friends, and leave me comments down below. I do love to hear from you guys. I apologize for the audio issue in last week's, or the most recent crystal scrying video. I think I have it figured out. I didn't want to reshoot because for the weekly videos, I try not to do too many reshoots or too much editing. But anyhow, thank you for joining me.